President Trump saying the U.S. has, quote, total control over the Strait of Hormuz. In the meantime, a recent CNBC analysis of data from Kepler, marine traffic, showed that ship traffic through the strait is actually at a 3-month low. But of course, that would also be ships that we can see, maybe not all the ships. Point is, do we actually know what's going on? For a closer look, let's talk about that and bring in TWG Global Managing Partner Amos Hochstein. He's a former White House senior advisor. There's a lot about this. There's a lot of people that know a lot about this as well. Do we know what's actually going on? Because the conflicting data for traders, for investors, for our audience has got to be mind scrambling.
So,
no ships, a lot of ships, open, closed.
The one thing we know is we have to discount political statements. They're completely irrelevant to what's happening. The market is taking them seriously, but in the real physical market, nobody's taking them seriously. We're in full control. We're not in full control. It's all nonsense. It's just market management, right? Secretary of Energy, 20 million barrels have gone through. Nobody can find those 20 million barrels. So what actually is happening, and I've said this on this show from the beginning of the war, Iran took control of the straits, right, by closing them. Now,
by closing it, by threatening ships to go through.
Correct. That's all you have to do.
Line in the water, hit you with a drone. A speedboat with bombs on it.
All you have to do is hit one or two, and every ship owner says, okay, I may get hit, and then I'm not going to go there. That's effective control, right? They are exercising now that the kinetic war is over. They're exercising control in other ways. And again, let's not equate control with a tariff or a toll. Control is, you can't come unless you notify me 48 hours in advance. You have to use this lane versus that lane, which means down the road, hey, country X in the Gulf, you're pissing me off. You can't come today, right? That's what control means.
You're talking about Kuwait, you're talking about Qatar, you're talking
Saudi,
about Bahrain, you're talking about Saudi,
any of them, right? How do we know what really is happening? Saudi and the UAE and others are spending billions of dollars on making the strait eventually irrelevant, right? Building massive infrastructure. You don't spend that kind of money, and this is serious money, and logistics, if you think that the straits reopened or that Iran is going to give up the control. They believe the United States has surrendered. They believe that this war is over because the U.S. can't afford to go back to war, and we can talk about that. And therefore, they have to make plans in the short term, put pressure on Iran to get it open. In the longer term, make sure that we don't have to be at the behest of the Iranians.
You keep saying Iran as if there is some static entity. Okay, you know better than I do that there's a lot of change that's happening at the top. When you take out the top 300 leaders, there's a power vacuum. Mohammed Ghalibaf seemed to have control. Now he's kind of disappeared. The guy that's the new name who's up there, there's Vahi, I can't pronounce it necessarily, 71 years old. I think he's on Interpol's most wanted list for an Argentinian bombing. I mean, it seems to change. What are the odds of a Iranian civil war, a fight for control inside of Tehran? Or do you think that the country actually does have cohesive and coherent leadership?
A number of things can be true at the same time. I do not believe that the odds are at all high for a civil war in Iran. And if there were any chances, we're past the time when it was the right time to do that. Are they a monolithic? No. And you have been reporting on this. There's a lot of disagreement and dissension. And they were putting out, the president and the parliament speaker, Ghalibaf, and the foreign minister.
Pezeshkian will speak one time. Ghalibaf will speak. Now there's a couple new names out there.
When wars end, that's when, which we're now at the end of war, you have either a further deterioration or a consolidation. What you're seeing over the last week or so is some consolidation, or naming new people to new positions, firing people. That you can only do if there's a beginning of a consolidation. I don't think we're at the end of a consolidation, but we're at the beginning of a consolidation where the more extreme, more radical elements of the IRGC and the regime are now in fuller control.
It seems like the pressure campaign from the White House has now, reverted back again toward economic pressure. And I'm just curious how you think about that as an effective strategy with the regime, especially those who are currently in charge.
Honestly, I think, back in the Obama days, I was in charge of the oil pressure on Iran, right? I managed the sanctions. I think that was better than going to war. That was the right policy then. The problem that we have now, we're in this situation of no war and no peace, no war, no resolution. Threatening one day economic pressure, threatening to go back to kinetic war the next day. Why? Because the president is hemmed in. He is in a cage with no door, and he's looking for an out. And I understand him. He's really stressed. Look, oil prices here are at, what are we today at? WTI is at about $81, $85. It's still pretty high. The correlation, though, between oil and gasoline is out of whack. Gasoline should be lower at an $81 oil price. But gasoline's over $4. What did we just see yesterday when DOE reported? Our exports have gone down. Our imports of oil have surged. And we're having a harder time releasing out of the SPR. Because why? They're lower, so they're constrained. So what does that tell the president? If you go back to kinetic war, we can manage the situation, but it's not going to be as easy as it was in April and May and June. And the consumer prices are going to go up much higher, much faster.
You characterize 81 on WTI as pretty high still. I try to discern what circumstances or scenarios the market is now handicapping in the price. Is it as simple as back to normal is 65 and re-escalation is 105 and here we are in the middle because we don't really know which way it is? Or is this now kind of, a proper reflection of the supply-demand equilibrium at the moment?
So the price should reflect two things. One is the supply-demand, and the other is how much spare capacity do I have in both gasoline and diesel products as well as oil. We're okay on the supply-demand-ish. Mm-hmm. We're still low on the supply side, which is why we're drawing. Remember, we're at 81, but we're depleting reserves. This is not a supply-demand. It's a demand that is remaining high, a supply that is really low, and the government is issuing the extra supply. And as that tool gets reduced, it's harder to do. The market is treating the SPR as though that's production. It's not production. It's not renewable. It's not sustainable. So the price is, in my book, not reflecting reality. Traders are trading right now the price based on headlines out of Washington. The president said, war is over, straits are open. Great, let's reduce the price. But that's not reality.
But the demand destruction part of this story, what is China's role in all of this, now and in the future?
So China has proven that their action since 2011, when they started, 2012, started building an SPR, which originally was supposed to be 500 million barrels, went to 1.4 billion barrels. They've proven a massively effective function of balancing the market. They reduced their imports by 4.5 to 5 million barrels. That was a big deal. But don't believe the people out of the government that are saying, oh, SPR can go to 70 million barrels. It's nonsense. Unless you want to say, I will take it to the point of never resurrecting it and we will never have it again. And that's why I said below 300 million, which where we are now.
I've quoted your number.
Is not that we can't do it, but it slows the flow and puts us in danger. And if one hurricane in Florida or in Louisiana, and we're really screwed because then we don't have it.
There goes the cushion.